Hey there, sleepy camper. Come on in, a little closer to the hush of these pines. Set your worries down by that fallen log, and let the night have its steady say. The forest is speaking in the soft language it keeps for those who linger. If we're gentle with our listening, we'll hear how it all holds together. Roots and rain, wind and waiting, and the small night lanterns we call mushrooms. Mushrooms aren't plants, not even cousins. They belong to their own old kingdom, closer to animals than to the green world they live among. They don't sip sunlight like leaves do. They breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon, and most of their living is tucked away where eyes don't wander. Thread-thin strands spread through the soil and wood, a lacework called mycelium. Up here, a cat might last a week and be gone. Down there, the thread keeps house for years, even decades, passing quiet gifts back and forth with tree roots. Some folks call that hidden barter, the wood's wide web, and I reckon there's truth in the nickname because kindness does get around. Let's walk easy along this needle-soft path. The ground remembers every rain, and from that memory, mushrooms write their notes. That's because a mushroom is the brief, above-ground part, the way a letter arrives from a friend who's been thinking of you a long time. The real friendship lives beneath our boots. Now, we're not here to gather a thing for a skillet. This is a bedtime wander, not a field guide. Wild mushrooms can be sweet as summer peaches to the tongue, and some can turn a dawn into a hard evening you don't come back from. No recipe is worth a roll of those dice. But we can tell a few true stories about who's who out here, and nod to the ones folks celebrate and the ones folks step well around. Take the chanterelle. Some call it the forest's little trumpet. Where it grows, cooks talk hush, soft about apricot and spice. It tends to favor mossy ground under old trees, arriving as if the rain itself shaped it. That's the edible tale people love to pass down at supper tables. But even as we smile at the thought, we keep our hands in our pockets. The woods have lookalikes for nearly every delight, and names on a tongue won't save you if you guess wrong. Or the oyster mushroom, those pale shelves fanned along a fallen trunk like pages of an open book. Folks prize it for the way it takes on whatever comfort you cook it with. Garlic, butter, a quiet stew. It's also a tidy housekeeper of the forest, turning stubborn straw and wood into soil the way a kind neighbor turns leftovers into breakfast. Useful and generous. That's its reputation, in pans and in the wild. There's lion's mane too, a shaggy cluster of white spines that hangs from wood like a winter beard. People talk about how it browns to a tender bite in a skillet, and how, when you close your eyes, the texture feels like a shoreline tree. In the trees, it's just as honest, growing on old wounds, returning rigid wood to the easy future of soil. The forest wastes nothing, and mushrooms are its patient keepers of that promise. But for every kitchen story, there is a sober one. The death cap wears the kind of olive calm that doesn't announce itself as danger, and yet inside it keeps a bitter inheritance. A small bite can be enough to close the body's most faithful workshop, the liver that filters our days without complaint. The cruelest part is the lullaby it sings. You may feel fine for a while, and then the trouble arrives after help is late. Many a path through the woods has changed its line because of that one. Then there's the destroying angel, pale as moon milk, lovely in the way dawn looks on fresh snow. That name wasn't chosen to scare children. It was set down by those who learned the hard way. Like its cousin, it carries a set of tiny locks and keys that fit into the body's machines and jam them for good. Beauty isn't a promise in these woods. It's just a costume all living things wear from time to time. Another quiet peril lives on rotting wood, the deadly Gallerina. It's small, modest, the sort of thing a careless gaze would miss, and yet it keeps the same fierce chemistry as its more famous kin. Grown-up woods folk give it space and speak softly about it, because the forest is not a villain, but it does expect its guests to be wise. Now and then you hear about witch lanterns, jack-o'-lantern, mushrooms glowing in a hush you almost talk yourself out of seeing. They sit on stumps in big, cheerful crowds, the color of pumpkin flesh, and in the deepest dark, some of them give off a ghost of light. They aren't apt to send you to the riverbank forever like the death cap might, but they'll lay a heavy hand on a foolhardy stomach. Glow or no glow, the lesson remains. Admire with your eyes, not your appetite. All this talk of danger and delight might make the forest sound like a test, but really, it's a church without a sermon. Mushrooms mark the places where the old world turns into the new. They are the choir that shows up after rain, sings a verse, and leaves the hymn behind in the soil. When an oak shares sugars it made from sun with the threads at its toes, and those threads carry back a taste of minerals, the oak can't fetch alone. You can feel how community is older than any town. It isn't charity, it's belonging. There are giants out here too, but not the kind a child pictures. A single mycelial being can spread wider than a whole neighborhood. One mighty honey fungus in a far-off forest has been quietly living and living for longer than our stories about it, stretching through the dark, taste-ing the world. You wouldn't know you were standing on it, and it wouldn't mind if you were. Size is a brag for creatures with clocks. The woods don't brag. As the night deepens, let's crouch by this mossy log wearing its green shawl. See the tiny caps along its seam, each rim catching a bead of water. If you could sit with one as it matures, you'd witness a simple miracle repeated across the world, gills or pores building dust. Fine spores, those spores lifting into the evening like a soft blessing, riding the breath of air you didn't notice until it touched your cheek. Some mushrooms loose clouds you can see, like a puffball sighing in a meadow. Others send their hopes grain by grain, too small for any eye, yet faithful as sunrise. There's an old tale about fairy rings, that time swirls different inside them. Truth is, the ring is just the yearly reach of the thread under the grass, circling out as it eats what's near and looks for what's next. But when you stand beside one and let your gaze follow its patient curve, you might feel the same quiet enchantment the tale was trying to describe. Maybe time doesn't change at all. Maybe you do, loosening the grip you forgot you were holding. If you tilt your head, a cap becomes a horizon line, and those pleated gills become a canyon of dusk. If you look longer, you'll notice how the forest tucks the complicated inside the simple. The mushroom offers its small umbrella to the night, and inside that shelter, trades and tides are running, messages are moving, and the old is being welcomed into the new. The work hums along without trumpets. The forest values results over announcements. We've named a few kitchen darlings tonight. Chanterelle, oyster, lion's mane, and we've met sober company too, death cap, destroying angel, deadly Gallerina, the jack-o'-lantern's mischief. But names are only safe in stories. In the woods they wear disguises and cast shadows and keep cousins that fool careful eyes. So we honor them with distance and respect, and we let their lessons be made of patience and gratitude instead of recipes. Another truth worth keeping: mushrooms arrive when conditions agree, not when we demand. A run of warm days, a silver-threaded rain, a stillness afterward. That's the sort of handshake that brings them. They're fond of edges, between light and shade, between living wood and fallen wood, between this chapter and the next. Maybe that's why sleeping comes easier when you keep them in mind. They remind you that edges aren't endings, they're invitations to soften. Some nights the forest gives you a small ceremony and no one else is invited. A moth folds itself on a cap's rim and waits. A droplet gathers, grows brave, and lets go, finding that soft heart of wood beneath. A thread you can't see breaks down a piece of yesterday and builds a teaspoon of tomorrow. Nothing hurries, nothing fights. The scorekeepers have the night off. We can linger with one more true thing before we head back. For all their quiet, mushrooms hold the map to how a place remembers itself. Fallen trees become soil. Soil grows roots, roots feed leaves, leaves fall and feed the threads that begin again. The circle isn't perfect because honest circles never are. They lean downhill a hair, they bump over stones, they skip a beat where a stubborn root once held fast. But they carry on, just the same way a worn heart does, one breath after another. The path home is simple. The pines have been pointing at it this whole time with their dark sleeves of needles, and the ground will cushion our steps with the generosity of 1,000 seasons. Keep the stories we met tucked where they can warm you, that mushrooms are neighbors who keep their promises, that some are fit for supper and some are fit for warning, that respect is the truest compass out here. If you ever needed a rule to walk by, try this one. Be a gentle guest. You can come back to this quiet anytime. The little lanterns will return when rain shakes hands with heat again, and the thread beneath will remember you, same as it remembers the trees. Close your eyes to the hush between the crickets and the breeze. Let the forest practice its patience on your breathing until the day loosens its grip. Rest easy now. These woods will keep watch.